After 4 people were killed by gunfire in Toronto last week, many feared that Canadian streets were becoming increasingly lawless. Today, new crime statistics were released that suggest those concerns might be misplaced. Violent crime dropped in this country in almost every region. This as the Prime Minister and Toronto's mayor talked about solutions to gun violence, solutions some are questioning. The CBC's Joanna Remiliotis has the story. Joanna?
Amanda, today's meeting amounted to a lot of tough talk on crime, but critics say it's way more complicated.
Just a few blocks from last week's shootout, police are deliberately more visible than ever.
Going around doing general patrol, saying hello to people in the neighborhoods.
It looks like a show of goodwill, but more than anything, it's a show of force.
Makes me feel safer. I'm usually out here at nighttime and I'm usually by myself, so I feel a lot safer.
Taking a tough stance on gang-related violence. That was the message out of today's closed-door meeting between Toronto's mayor and the Prime Minister. At an unrelated event later, Stephen Harper said his government's recent omnibus crime bill will mean tougher sentences for those caught with illegal firearms.
I think these events in Toronto underscore why these penalties are essential, why it is essential to have tough and certain penalties for gun crime.
The so-called gun summit comes after a rash of deadly gunfire in the city. The most shocking at a block party last week when an unknown number of gunmen opened fire, killing 2 and injuring 23 others.
And while a memorial still marks what police call the worst shooting in Toronto history, new statistics suggest overall the violent crime rate is dropping.
A new Statistics Canada report finds the rate and severity of violent crime fell 4% in 2011. And while the national homicide rate increased by 7%, experts say it was relatively low to begin with and reflects more of a blip than a trend. This criminologist says the recent gang-related violence in Toronto is a specific problem and that today's political rhetoric doesn't address it.
If you're willing to take the life of another and to have your life taken in gunplay, how can the penalties that exist in the criminal code really be significant to you in terms of your behavior? We have to look at prevention.
It's why there is a growing call to support more programs like this, ones that target kids at risk of getting involved in gangs.
If you're not here, what's the risk?
Then you can get shot on the block, or they'll give you money, make you sell crack, make you sell marijuana, anything just to make you get money and make you part of them.
The Prime Minister did say his government continues to support at-risk programs and said he and Ford discussed specifics on how to tackle gun violence, but he didn't elaborate publicly on what those are. Amanda?
All right, thanks, Joanna. Well, a little more on that new crime report Joanna mentioned. It uses a crime severity index to measure violent crimes across the country. So how do some of Canada's biggest cities compare? Looking at the rates from worst to best, first up are Winnipeg, Montreal, and Vancouver. Right in the middle are Edmonton, Toronto, and Halifax. Then come Calgary and Ottawa. The best rate, that belongs to Quebec City.